Hello everyone. Now that I've gotten the whole YouTube and Microsoft problem out of my system, I want to go back to the Guild Wars 2 discussion. When I made my last recording, I went over a few things kind of as short and simple as I could to help new players or returning players. At the time that I made that recording, there was a bunch of confusion regarding the whole Steam thing, and I couldn't really comment on it because even I was confused. Now that there's more information out, I can sort of comment and point you to this Reddit post. Let me go ahead and give you a summary of what I understand so far. I could be wrong, so take this with a grain of salt if you have to. But as I understand it, the Guild Wars 2 client, so going through Guild Wars 2 website rather than Steam, that's the old way of doing things with Guild Wars. That's where most of the community and economy is. Steam, however, seems to not have the ability to connect to that community or that market the same way that the original client does. If I'm correct, then there's probably a reason for this. It's probably because Steam charges a lot and ArenaNet is trying to avoid those charges. I think it's like 30%. Or something like that. Every transaction, Steam is taking 30% cut or something like that. So it makes sense that they would want to avoid that because they're not really getting a lot of money out of it. So yeah, it's probably because of that reason. But it also has to do probably with other reasons. However, I would imagine that's the main one. But either way, whatever the issue is, there is a way to access the Guild Wars 2 client through Steam, and this guide goes over that. And this would make it so that you're going through Guild Wars 2 instead of Steam. Now, I've done some testing on my end, and as far as I can tell, if you do it this way, you can still access Proton on Steam. Proton is that software that makes games compatible for Linux. Because don't forget that the Steam Deck is Linux. So that tells me that because I'm able to still access Proton despite launching the Guild Wars client from outside of Steam, that you could potentially do the same thing to the Steam Deck. I don't have a Steam Deck to test, so I can't confirm that. That's why I'm saying potential. I can confirm, though, doing it on the desktop the exact same way this guy is kind of mentioning. That worked. Like, I was able to activate Proton through that particular method. That said, it does bring up some concerns through this whole thing. I've brought this up numerous times in my recordings, but there's a reason that I stress Linux so much. It's not because I'm a fanboy, but it's because I recognize the numbers. You see, it takes millions of dollars to create a new operating system or software, in a lot of cases. The best way to avoid high costs is to use something that already exists, and then just modify it to whatever purpose you need. So, Linux is just that. Linux does really well. It's there to modify. It's probably going to be the best thing for video gaming. I think it will honestly do better than Microsoft, assuming Microsoft would stop being controlly or bossy of the market. But that might not happen in my lifetime. Either way, though. Yes, so Linux is important because the more you're able to use Linux, the more the numbers show up on the market research end. Unfortunately, a lot of companies today are market research driven. The more they see somebody using something, the more they're inclined to make an investment or develop something there. So, the more you play Linux, the better chance that someone else will come along and support it besides Steam. Playing Guild Wars on Linux is one way of handling that. And when I did my first recording on Guild Wars, I did also mention Path of Exile is extremely Linux friendly. You could play both Guild Wars and Path of Exile on Linux. If you can do that, you can certainly help relieve the problem that we're seeing, which is the Microsoft monopoly. But the reason that this is a concern is that they're not making it easy to use Linux with Guild Wars, is what I'm noticing through all this. Because they're not making it easy, they're not really contributing to the problem, or contributing to deal with the problem, because I would imagine that most people are not going to go through the process of doing this just to play Guild Wars. That doesn't help. You see, that's another thing, too, you have to keep in mind, is whenever you develop a software, game, operating system, or what have you, it has to be as easy as possible. Otherwise, people are going to be lazy or say, I don't feel like learning this, and then just completely ignore it. So you have to make everything easy, because otherwise people are going to just do that. This not being easy is not helping. You see? But I'm going to link this Reddit post for you, and I just wanted to let you know that this is kind of what I'm seeing so far. Maybe somebody who knows this whole thing better than I do can help you through it, but I thought I would just raise some awareness to it. Thanks for listening.